Good afternoon. I'd like to call the agenda review session into order. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Dollison.
Here.
Commissioner Mercer.
Here.
Commissioner Dantzler, who is not present. Mayor Pro Tem Yates.
Here.
And Mayor Birdsong.
Here. Well, we will have the President Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have several proclamations, and they're all going to be presented Monday night.
Yes, sir. And just, sorry, I'm turn my microphone back on. The four presentations or proclamations we'll do as normal, and then have the commission be reseated for the presentation from our auditor. Unless you want to have your picture taken with the auditor, but I don't. It's not real exciting.
All right. So then we have the minutes and comments from the audience, and then these second readings. We've heard them once. Any updates?
No, sir. Everything is remains the same as it was on first read.
All right. So that's with all of the ordinances. So then we get to the consent agenda.
So the first item is in continuation of the presentation that Malden and Jenkins will make regarding the audit, and this is the acceptance of the ACFR and the CRA's audit. I'll just tell you ahead of time that the very, exceptional audit again. No findings, no management letter recommendations. It's a clean, unmodified audit. It's the best we could ever hope to achieve. And so looking forward to have their presentation.
Okay.
Item 10B, this is the Digimation Advanced Range Training. So you may recall that we did a presentation to the commission several months back about new taser technologies we're using and virtual reality. This was, I think, came up during our strategic momentum session as well, that this is a similar product that uses a simulator for firearms training. Certainly a more safe and cost-effective way to do our annual training, and I believe qualifying can take effect to some or be accomplished through some of this as well. It is being purchased through funds that are available to us through our forfeiture account, which has about $184,000 in that account. It's a cost of $18,105. I think there's a slide, AJ, if you can advance one. So again, state-of-the-art technologies that come into play that do simulation for the officers to train on, trying to bring in as many advanced technology tools as we can to make sure our officers are fully prepared. Item 10C, this is the memorandum of agreement with the Winter Haven Professional Firefighters, the International Association of Firefighters, Local 4967 Collective Bargaining Agreement. You recall we've had some discussions with you regarding where we stand in our union negotiations. We continued to meet at the table through the past 3 months, and were able to achieve a tentative agreement with the fire union. I'll give you just a kind of a quick highlights of this. Now, keep in mind, this is not a full contract reopener. This is for fiscal year 25. It was wages and 2 items that could be negotiated on. So wages pertain to the cost of living adjustments that we would provide for our firefighters, and then the 2 items that come before for your consideration are pertaining to the Kelly Day program, and then also with respect to our incentive program. So the wage adjustments, where that lands is that for new hires that are coming on as a firefighter one, these are employees that are not with us, the base starting pay for those positions on an annual basis will be increased by $3,978.80. For incumbents that are in the collective bargaining unit, they will have a pay adjustment of $4,253.20, and that is to be retroactive back to October 1st, which is if we had had the agreement done at that point when that would take effect. The Kelly Day scenario changes beginning in calendar year 26. So in January of 26. Presently, our firefighters, they receive a what we call 1 in 9 allocation, which means every 9th shift they are afforded a Kelly Day. Kelly Day is intended to provide a period of rest and recovery, physically, mentally, emotionally from the work that they do. And under the current CBA, firefighters may elect in January of each year if they're going to work their Kelly Day or take it off. Under this new agreement, the new language in the MOU, they will go to a 1 in 7 Kelly Day, which means that every 7th day they will be off, every 7th shift, and they are required to take that day off. So what that does is it reduces their annual number of hours by giving them 4 additional Kelly Days throughout the year. More importantly, I mean, and that's a tremendous benefit for them in terms of health, rest, and recovery. For the city, having them be required to take that time off provides us with full control of overtime use and needs. As it stands right now, a firefighter who chooses to work that Kelly Day is on duty now, and you may have a need for a different position because of other shortages you have on that day, and you end up having to call in even more people because they're not qualified to serve in that capacity that you need. And that ends up being a wear and tear on your overtime budget. That will take effect, as I said, in January of 26. I mentioned hours, the annual hours. So right now, the firefighters work 2,600 hours a year, and that will reduce down to 2,496 hours a year. However, the annual pay will not change. That is part of what we negotiated. So what you end up doing is taking the annual pay and dividing it by a smaller number. Right. It results in a higher per hour rate, which is then the basis for calculations related to overtime and holiday pay. I will say that, and certainly Chief Newbern is here and he can comment on this as need be, but I think from a benefit structure, I believe this positions the city to be in a very strong recruitment position for filling vacant positions that we have, which also helps further mitigate issues related to overtime that would occur. But it also, as we look to add new positions, as we expand services, we become a very attractive agency in that regard. And Chief, I'm going to ask you to come to the podium if you would. I'm not sure if we have any other agencies in Polk County that are operating on a 1 in 7 Kelly now. Does Lakeland?
Currently, Lakeland Fire Department is the only one in Polk County that operates on a 1 in 7.
So pay-wise, I feel that this gets us very competitive against every other agency within the county, and certainly from a benefit standpoint, makes us very attractive. So the other piece that falls within this is some changes that we made to their incentive pay. So when a firefighter one is ready to progress or is desirous to progress to a firefighter two, they have to complete a certain number of courses that have certification with them. And they also have to have so much seat time, as we call it, meaning time in the position as a firefighter one. it's very likely that a firefighter 1 could get all of the certifications needed to be a 2, but not be qualified in total because they have not had enough time in the seat. We made an adjustment to help encourage and incentivize people to advance up through the ranks by creating an opportunity where once the firefighter 1 achieves those certifications, they can receive 1/2 of the incentive. So 2.5% is what that is. And then get the other 2.5% when they get the time in the seat. As it stands today, you have to wait until you have both the time and the certifications. Why that's beneficial? One, it certainly is beneficial to the firefighter because they're able to start earning additional at an earlier period. But for the city, as I mentioned, it encourages and incentivizes employees to get their certifications to move up through the ranks. Ideally, if I could have a whole platoon, our entire staffing be all firefighter 3s, that's an ideal, it's an unrealistic, but it's an ideal situation because they can do any of those jobs of a 1, 2, or 3. So I think that the other nice thing about this is that once they have those certifications, Chief Newbern and his command staff are able to have those individuals ride up. You know, as a firefighter 2, you can ride up as a firefighter 3. And it allows us to be able to do some more operationally responsive staffing as needed. So, Drew, anything you want to add beyond that to what the changes are?
No, you've nailed them pretty well with it. The incentivized program allows us to, I won't just say mitigate overtime, but it allows us to optimize our staffing levels throughout periods of time where somebody might be off on vacation. We can then take some of these that aren't fully qualified by tenure and seat, but they are by certifications and abilities to be able to sit in those positions for a period of times that don't require us to call back overtime in.
This was tentatively agreed at the table, and it was taken by the IAFF Local 4967 to their members probably 3 weeks ago, thereabout now, and they had voted in favor of it. So now it comes before the City Commission for your consideration. These costs are accounted for within our budget, and you know we're ready to move forward with it.
Okay, let me ask you this. So in less than 5 months, we're going to be back at it?
In less than a month, we're going to be back at it. I hate not to sound crass, but that is a full contract reopener. So this is, got to get this one done. And then I think we've already had some dialogue back and forth of trying to find dates to come back to the table and look at the entire contract as we're at the beginning of a 3-year cycle.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Moving right along, item 10D. This is the interlocal agreement for an interconnect between the City of Winter Haven and the City of Eagle Lake. This is part of a settlement that occurred between the two cities dating back to 2004. So Mayor Birdsong, you may recall when we had some utility communications and coordinations that needed to happen between the City of Winter Haven and City of Eagle Lake. And one of those is the establishment of this interconnection that allows for emergency services when needed. Map shows you where that is. That State Road 540, that is Winter Lake Road. So this is just kind of the northwest of where the racetrack gas station is at Cooley Road. If you were to drive by there, you have another photo of it, AJ, or is that the final one? It's basically just some big blue pipes sticking up out of the ground, surrounded by chain link. The agreement itself it allows for emergency service to be provided to either city via the other when there's some occasion of a sudden, urgent, unforeseen, unexpected equipment, transmission, treatment, or distribution failure. The agreement spells out that an emergency situation is such that does not exceed 96 continuous hours. It also defines a short-term need, which is a period not exceeding 60 calendar days, and as well as a long-term need, which exceeds 60 days. If Eagle Lake were to lose, capacity within their system because of one of those failures, and this is not because they didn't plan properly or invest properly. This is because of a failure in the system. They've got to have help.
Right.
We can provide that so long as we have the capacity to do it. It cannot do anything to jeopardize our consumptive use permit or impact our operational levels. And they do pay for that water at the, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's at the lowest commercial rate that we have. Now, they don't pay all the admin fees and things that a typical commercial customer is. It's just for the water use. So, and this is not too dissimilar to engagements that, between the city and Polk County, Dundee, Haines City. We have a number of these that are coming into play. This is just one, and there's I guess that's probably before it was painted.
If you look at Exhibit B on the agreement, it should show a visual.
Yeah, there's a visual from above, but it doesn't really show it from below. So it looks much cleaner than that right now. I promise you that if you were to drive by, it is all fenced in and looking quite professional.
Right.
Item 10E, this is a repair of the one of our vac trucks. So back in October this year, we had one of our vac trucks that was damaged. This was damaged as a result of operation by the city that wasn't involved in a vehicle crash or anything like that. It happened when the boom system of that was not properly secured, and as the vehicle moved from one location to another, it became damaged. Originally, those repairs were quoted out at $49,700. However, once they got into it, it added some additional costs that brought the total repair to just over $55,000, and that is beyond my spending threshold. Hence, we're bringing this just as a ratification to get that repaired. Significant cost to repair, but this is probably a $500,000 to $600,000 piece of equipment at the end of the day. So,
All right.
item 10F. So as you are aware, we've had a number of spaces within the downtown parking garage closed off for several months. This is following a inspection we had done for preventative maintenance that identified some repairs that needed to be made. Those closures are out of an absolute abundance of caution. We have some work that needs to be performed involving water sealing some of portions of the building where you have water that falls down between the deck pieces, and then also some spalling of concrete beams that again is tied back to that water coming through. And so we had Kimley Horn do a design for that and repair scope of work. We worked with Whitehead Construction, who built the original parking garage back in 2012. They're also under contract with us as a general contractor for the city, and they have provided a scope of work or a proposal to perform the initial scope of work to make those repairs. The cost for that is $320,808, and that will be funded through the downtown CRA. We have scheduled for Monday evening a emergency CRA meeting notice went out, I think, early this week or late last week on that. It's on your calendars as well as your two citizen members to have them approve this, and then it will come before this body is the authorizing me to take the actions needed to make that happen. And I'm going to look to Angie. Do we know, is there an estimated window for how long Whitehead anticipates the project to take to complete?
Yes, sir. Will be prepared to start as early as May 12th if everything goes in the approval process, and estimate 45 days for completion of the work. The parking garage can remain open during that time. However, if they have to close off an area or do something special, as long as we coordinate ahead of time, they can open the full garage for access for special events.
So are there still closed off spaces right now, or can
Yes.
can we open those up
Not,
until May 12th? And
not until we have the work complete.
Yeah, they're closed off. I saw them today.
Can I ask a question? Do we have any idea what caused the water to be flowing through or coming through, or?
My understanding of it is it has to do with the caulking and sealing of the gap space between the precast decks, and how to best maintain that on a routine basis, that water coming through there, because that's where most of the spalling is occurring. Angie, do you have further insights on that?
The way it was explained to me is very similar to like your bathtub caulk, where your tile and your tub meet. It just weathers and ages and starts to get hard. So as that happens, you need to pull that caulk out and replace it. And it's very similar in the parking garage.
That's a lot of caulk.
Yeah. And being
Got a lot
a
of decks.
prefab, you would think they would, know to do certain things with that. And the caulking, you have your waterproof caulking, and you have all that that's supposed to stay flexible. And
We have a recommendation from them now as to things to check on a more frequent basis. So first run with the parking garage, and we've learned more every year.
So it's
maybe we don't want
compromised.
prefab the next time.
So it's compromised, but the integrity of the structure itself, or certain parts of it.
No, it's still very structurally sound. It just allows the water to come through, which they assured us several different times when they were up here and inspecting it and prepping for the work. There's nothing structurally unsound about the parking garage. All we did was block the spaces, like T. Michael said, in an abundance of making sure debris didn't wash down through the openings in the gaps, or get in and small pieces of concrete.
So there's no additional supporting or anything of that nature that's necessary.
No, this is mostly the cosmetic edge of
That's the word.
the beams of it.
Cosmetic. Okey-dokey.
MJ, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say when we talk about the spalling, there's lifting points where they use a crane when they lift those decks in, and around those hooks they put like a concrete covering over that, and as water gets into there, it causes that concrete to then start to come off, and so that's where those spaces are closed now. Is that concrete could dislodge, and you'd have a big chunk of concrete that would fall out of there. It's not structural; it's cosmetic. But until we get that repaired and make sure that that's all secure, that's what we're doing here, in addition to the caulk.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, we have a couple of ordinances, first reading. One is a land development, the other one is a zoning, so.
I'd like to talk about these if I can.
All right.
So I want to share with you some insights that we gleaned in reviewing this one, and then how we're going to be presenting some information to you going forward. So this is Cassidy Land Development. They're asking for neighborhood suburban future land use and multifamily residential low density R3 zoning to 4 annex parcels that are down in the old Bartow Road area. It's 93.45 plus or minus acres. These were annexed back in January of this year. And as would be expected, they intend to develop the property with single-family residential. Based upon the zoning, they could do 362 single-family residential units. There's the image that shows you where this is. So this is a large-scale future land use amendment. So what action you'll be taking Monday evening will be to send this to Florida Commerce and the other local or other state agencies that need to review it. When you get into the infrastructural table, this is the first project that I'm aware of that we've had come forward that if you look under potable water at the far right, you see a remaining capacity of negative 89,524. And certainly that caught my eye when I saw it. So I want to go talk about what that means. AJ, I want to back up from where we are. I don't want to get into that just yet. So hang on. Can you back that up, please? So we met with staff, Eric, 2 days ago, I guess it was, to get a better understanding of what is this, how does this play out? And I'm going to ask you if you'll come to the podium and walk us through. When we talk about remaining capacity within the water side of things, there's a number of factors that go into it. So one of the things that you're going to see going forward, and I don't know if you have your fact sheet up and you can see what that table looks like today. We're going to be changing that table to more accurately communicate what is happening on the water side when it comes to these types of requests. So Eric and his team put together this table that will now appear in your fact sheets. And this one is actually specific to this project in hand. And you can see at the top, all the water information. And then at the bottom is the transportation information. Now I'm going to go forward because we're focused specifically upon water. So Eric, you want to walk through what's displayed in here and how we come about this information?
Yes, sir. So what we display in our fact sheets is concurrency information. So concurrency simply is a tool that we've adopted by ordinance that we use in the city of Winter Haven to ensure that we are planning properly for our infrastructure, right? So for water capacity, sewer capacity, transportation, roads, it's a planning tool that we use. And the table intends to reflect what is going on there in the concurrency spreadsheets. If you look at this new table that you'll see moving forward, we wanted to better communicate how much capacity we have compared to what our concurrency spreadsheets are saying, because that is different. And so how we do this, the first column there on the left, the 24-month average capacity, we take an average over the last 2 years to develop what our average capacity there is in both systems. You can see potable water, it's 2,320,000 gallons per month.
And that's remaining capacity. That is out of the 14.0106 MGD permit that we have remaining 2.32 MGD.
MGD, gallons per day. I'm sorry, I said per month, but it's per day, gallons per day. And so, when you look at the spreadsheet and you see a negative 89,524, that is not communicating that we're over pumping. It is not communicating that we don't have capacity or that we're running out of capacity. We have over 2 million gallons per day of remaining capacity in the system today. So then we go to the next column, projected demands from this request. If this subdivision builds out at the number of units anticipated, we plug in an estimated water use. That's the 91,224 gallons per day. Okay, those numbers come from adopted level of service numbers that we have in our comprehensive plan that basically equates to 241 gallons per day per house. That's the number that we use to come up with that. We multiply it by the number of units, and it's projected to use 91,000 and change. So we use that to subtract the remaining capacity if the request was permitted today. So we subtract that 91,000, and you're left with 2,228,776 gallons per day. In the system, if this project developed today, you'd still have over 2 million gallons available. Okay. Now, here's where concurrency kicks in. The next column is the projected future demands for prior approved projects. These are all subdivision plats that have been approved. Okay, keep in mind, this project is just at the land use and zoning stage. It's nowhere near final plat approval. Still has a lot of hurdles to get through. And so this is all of the approved plats, subdivision plats that we have that are vested to move forward. They can build, and all commercial site plans and what their projected demands are. When you add all of those up, you get to the 2,318,300 gallons per day. You subtract that from our available capacity, and you get the negative number, 89,524. So that is a snapshot in time. That's what concurrency is. It's a snapshot in time. When we wrote this fact sheet, everything that we have available and everything that we have vested for future development puts us in the negative. Now, what I can tell you is that our available capacity and our projected future demand numbers are not static. They fluctuate, okay? On a month-by-month basis, they fluctuate. So in dry months, people are irrigating more, we pump more water. In wet months, they're not, we pump less water. So that 24-month rolling average changes. The projected future demand number changes often, because what happens is that a site plan is good for 1 year. So they are in the spreadsheet, and they're in this number. They're accounted for 1 year. If they don't build the project, they're eligible to get an 18-month extension. 30-month extension. If they request it. If they don't request it, it falls off. We remove it from the spreadsheet. If the project doesn't develop, it falls off the spreadsheet. So that number moves all the time. So the negative number does not mean we're running out of water. It means at this particular point in time, everything we have accounted for puts us in the negative at some point in the future. Okay? Now, I'll tell you that the numbers even changed from when we wrote this fact sheet to today. Today, if we recalculated it, that number would be in the positive. And we know of at least 3 other projects that are in our concurrency spreadsheet today in that number that next month will fall off because their site plan expires. So it's a tool that we use to make sure we're planning for our future water capacity. Doesn't mean we're running out of water.
No, in fact,
I should say, but we are running out of water. I mean,
Well,
really and truthfully, I mean, we are running out of water.
is a state, water's a concern statewide. You keep in mind as we look to increase permitted capacity through water use permit to bring on additional water through Polk Regional Water Cooperative, to get additional water credit through aquifer recharge, those types of projects. That has an impact on that as well. One of the other things, Mayor Pro Tem, that we're looking at, we have a adopted level of service, but in looking at subdivisions that are coming online more recently, that adopted level of service is much greater than what we're seeing as actual demand. So one of the things staff will be doing is revisiting that to see if we need to do a comp plan amendment specific to if it's 240 gallons per day per house, but we're actually seeing 180, then we need to recalculate that. And that has a direct bearing back onto these numbers as well. But you are right. Water is a finite resource in the state.
And I would just add that the last piece of concurrency is if a project gets to the point where they are seeking final site plan approval, or in the case of a residential subdivision, plat approval, and we calculate the numbers, that is when we have our check and balance, our actual check and balance. And if any infrastructure system that we do concurrency for, water, sewer, or transportation, is not available at that time, we deny the project. So that ensures that we don't overpump.
Okay, so basically, with what you're presenting here is the prior approved projects. Okay, they have an extended time, a limited time that they have to be actually started.
Yes, sir.
Okay, my question is simply this. Since you just said that some of those are going to fall off, when you are doing concurrency is, now correct me if I'm incorrect, when you do concurrency for water, you're actually doing it based on what your actual capacity is at that time, not on what's projected.
It's both. It's our actual capacity that we have available and what we call vested.
Okay, now, and this is the other thing that is not in here anyway. Okay, we've already projected water capacity through the water cooperative. And so none of that.
Right.
Correct.
Because
we don't have it
that
yet.
water is going to be available in, what is it,
28.
28. So I'm just saying, just if I wasn't this would scare me, because it would make it look like that we're absolutely running out of water. And that is not the case yet.
Right.
But I get it. I
Right.
get it.
And you're exactly right. That water, that PRWC water is not in our spreadsheets
Right,
yet as available capacity. And our ordinance states that if a project is funded, that you can put it into your concurrency spreadsheet within 3 years of the date that you're supposed to receive that allocation.
Okay.
So about, I think it was August or October of this year, we can add that capacity into our concurrency spreadsheets.
Okay, well, the thing is that when I see this, because we are hoping that we don't have to start getting that capacity, but we're going to have to pay for it anyway, so.
And as Eric said, you have a number of projects that are in there that are they're approved site plans for commercial. They are approved plats for subdivisions. So you reserve that capacity within your system, but if they don't move forward, then you rescind that reservation. And when we sat down, they have a very complex spreadsheet that Sean manages. It's like reading the hieroglyphics at times to me, but it shows all these projects and where they are in the process. And they monitor very closely. If something's falling off or something is not meeting that timeline, it's not a wait and let's see if they come around. It's when you hit that point, it's off.
Yes.
Which backfills again capacity. I just want to make sure that we present information to you, that we're articulating it in a way that makes sense and is very clear and accurate and covers all the points of it.
And got one other question, since you bring up the water issue. The permit that we're applying for additional capacity, when will that?
We're probably from submitting that, Mark, 6-8 months.
Yeah, we're just closing in.
Good afternoon. We spoke with David McIntyre, who will be doing the permit for us. We're just closing in on his scope of work for the submission to SwiftMud for that, and we plan on having that in front of you guys probably next month. After that's done, we've done the preliminary steps. We've actually had quite a few communications and meetings with SwiftMud, and we hope to have the permit, like I said, in about 8 months to be under review. After that, who knows how long it'll take.
Just got a question for you. Because Swift Mud, not only, they haven't put it in absolute writing, but with the cooperative, they've sort of twisted well, no, I don't want to use that word. They have,
Strongly encouraged.
they have encouraged us to come through with the water cooperative because there was statements that our capacity was going to be frozen at the 2025 levels.
That's correct. Our 25
And so,
demonstrated demands.
so that's what I'm saying. So if we,
Well,
But-
that concept is still out there, that 2025 demand concept.
Yeah.
We don't want to get into the weeds on that tonight.
okay, all right, I'm just,
The other part to what I think Mark is also saying is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are applying for a 50-year permit
That's correct.
as opposed to a 30 or 20-year permit.
That's
That's a
correct.
big deal.
yeah, that's a big
because
deal. Y'all ahead the game.
Swift Mud is, I believe, is acquiesced in theory.
Yes,
to a
they've
50-year
actually
permit,
permitted
which was a
one other
big ask.
municipality for that, and
Oh,
that's.
really?
Yes, I don't apologize. I don't know what that is, but it was just this past year. They granted a 50-year permit to some other municipality.
But I mean, is that, I don't want to get ahead of the game, but
No,
is that, have we gotten, well, until Swift Mud gives.
All right, we'll, this is the agenda review, so we can have this conversation.
Yeah. that's what our
We won't do it
pre-application,
Monday.
our pre-application meetings with SwiftMud was to discuss the 50-year permit proposals.
All right. Okay, thank you. Is that it? Because then the other one is just zoning, right?
Yeah, and again, make abundantly clear, we are not approving a plat.
Right.
This is simply assigning land use and zoning to a property that has been annexed into the city, which we are required to do that. And you will vote Monday evening to transmit this to Florida Commerce as a large scale,
Land use.
yeah, land use.
Okay. Any
I
questions?
believe that's the final thing on the agenda, sir.
Anything else? Guys? Lady?
Yeah.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you.